Tom Goodall. I'm the Chief Executive of Related Argent. We're a mixed-use developer and operator here. We have about 200 staff on site here. We've been working on this estate as well as other projects in London for about 23 years. It is basically finished today. We have one building left to start a small one, but other than that, it's essentially a complete estate, and we are now the development manager and asset manager of the estate. I thought I'd just show you a few images of kind of the last 20 years. Try to do 20 years in 10 minutes and see how I get on. But, if you have any questions, please stop me. Ask questions. It's no problem. So Related Argent, who are we? We are a UK-based business. Related Companies is the largest privately owned real estate developer in North America, who we partner with, and we're two of the largest privately owned real estate developers in North America and the UK. I'll kind of give you a scale of the pipeline. Currently, we have 5 major projects in the city in London. King's Cross, which I'll talk to you about. St Pancras Hostel, which is another site just over the side of railway lines. Tottenham Hale, Brent Town, which is a huge development about 10 minutes north of here, and our build-to-rent development with the King's Cross. As you see, most of those developments are pretty sizable, so we have about 13 billion GDV of developments underway. So I don't know how much you know about King's Cross. I'm assuming you know nothing about King's Cross, so I'll start.
I've been to King's Cross multiple times in 2004.
Oh, okay, it's changed quite a bit since then. So, year 2000, this is this photo, and we are currently, just to give you a bit, so you probably walked from the station or walked from the cars up here. We are in this building just here. Essentially this 67-acre site was owned by 2 parties. DHL, the logistics company, owned half of it, and London Continental Railways, which is essentially a government body, owned the other half.
What is the area in the dotted lines? Like how much the area?
67 acres. 67 acres, yeah. That was the best version of the dotted line I could do. So today, photo taken this year, that site now looks like this. Obviously very, very different. Essentially, in the early 2000s, those 2 landowners went to market to find a development partner, and we were selected as their development partner. And then the 3 parties together formed the King's Cross Partnership as the developer of the site. DHL and London Continental Railways have now since sold on, but they were with the partnership for 10 years. Today, the largest shareholder is Australian superannuation, the largest superannuation pension funds in the world, and they own about 74% of the estate. This is what it used to look like. So this is 1948. Again, we are sat in here. The railway building, which you see in the 2 railway sheds. So as you can see, this was like the major industrial site for London Railways. It's where all the goods from the north of England came down to London and were then distributed onto the canal and horse and carts. So it was a very major industrial place. And then sort of post the Industrial Revolution, obviously for 30 years, it kind of became a bit of a forgotten place as less and less goods were transported via that way. And probably in the year 2000 was a bit of a no-go area. Wasn't necessarily unsafe, but there was nothing to do here. It was derelict land. So essentially, what we've done is taken a place for goods, closed off, disused and forgotten, and it's been reinvented and reimagined, principally for people. And our kind of big ethos is that cities are for people, and that if you can get people to turn up to places, they'll probably be successful. The main point. There's a short video now which shows you, it was actually produced a couple of years ago, but it shows you the kind of journey of construction that King's Cross went on.
How was the ownership of the land transferred from the railways to the real engines?
It wasn't. The owners of the land came into partnership with us. So we the 3 parties together, us and the 2 landowners, we went together in partnership. So it wasn't transferred.
It was a JV. Yeah. JV created. They were the owners. They were the on the development would have come from your side.
Yeah, so they put in the land, and we put in some money to match the land.
Yes.
So as you can see, all of those events, all of the estate now is kind of enlivened by people. The team here, we have an asset management team of about 50 people who work day to day running the estate, and we host around 150 to 200 events in the estate a year, so 4 a week. Some of them are tiny, some of them are really big, and we use the whole estate to kind of enliven, and that's all paid for through service charge. We have now a footfall in excess of 20 million people a year come to the estate, and it's very much a place for people. So we have different summer events, outdoor cinemas, always prioritising pedestrians over cars. We use the square to hold different. This was a climate change event, and then we have summer sounds events, concerts, the fountains out the front there, which are turned off today because it's quite cold. But in the summer, hundreds and hundreds of children playing out in those fountains. There's day-to-day activity, and we hold various different event enlivenment. So all of this stuff, I think, building the buildings is just one part of it. Actually, kind of creating the environment that people and the events program that people want to engage with is the really kind of is where the real skill, I think, comes. We kind of think of it like a theatre. So we spend a lot of time building the theatre, but ultimately people go to the theatre to watch what happens on the stage, not just stare at the stage. Also the ground floor, so we now have about 100 different retailers at King's Cross. Food and beverage has become kind of very well known here. We have queues of people going to every restaurant, so if you want to book into one of the restaurants, it's probably 6 weeks or so in advance you need to book into most of the restaurants. And then we also have a real commitment to kind of community in place. Most of these things that you'll see on the screen no longer, well, the pool and the baseball, they don't exist. They were here as we were going through on the vacant land. We were doing meanwhile uses, so the things we do kind of week in, week out are things like the market on the right-hand side. Just to give you an idea, so 67 acres, has about 8 million square feet of gross mixed-use development, 10 public spaces, 26 acres of public space out of 57, and about 2,000 homes, just under 2,000 homes, new homes, and about 4.25 million square feet of office space. We've never finished a square foot of office space on this estate without it being leased. We've never finished it. We've never had an empty square foot of floor space.
What is this 8 million square feet of gross mixed use? What do you mean by gross mixed use?
So gross means gross floor area, so total external envelope of development, and then mixed use means across all the use classes. So when you add up all of the development, all of the space that we've built here, it's 8 million square feet of development.
I see lots of
67 acres.
The estate has a retained value now, and it's very close to £4 billion, and we've virtually completed that, the vertical development. In 2021, the estate was certified as carbon neutral, so we now are operationally carbon neutral. We're actually pursuing to get a net zero certification as well. We built, run and operate our own energy centre here, so all of the buildings, heating and cooling is done through the central energy system that runs on biogas, so it's energy, carbon neutral in its operation day to day. All of the vehicles are electric, all the waste is recycled. So the whole estate can run completely off grid, so it doesn't need the main energy grid for heating or electricity.
How do you get this bioresource so much that you are able to run the plant to run this all electricity?
The biogas We import biogas.
You import biogas.
Yeah. And we have 3 large energy engines that basically heat the hot water that goes with big pipes of boiling water that go into each building that do heating and hot water. And the steam from those also generates a lot of electricity, which is topped up by photovoltaic panels on the roofs.
The residential value is now 1,600 pounds per square feet.
Yeah,
Per square feet.
correct. Yeah.
8 lakh square feet. Is this really that much costly?
As much as that? Yeah, I mean, so the highest we've sold on the estate is 3,500. An average building is probably about, that's probably a bit older, probably about 1,800 per square foot is probably the residential value. Office rents are about £100 a square foot. They started, the first building we sold was
100 pounds square feet per year
for office rents. And I guess, our kind of focus on people is all about driving value. We very much believe that, particularly in today's world, if you're in a place where people want to be, then that will drive value. Social value, economic value, environmental value. So I think the reviews, when you see people sort of saying King's Cross is buzzing with people in a way that feels very good, that's actually kind of a real vote of confidence to employers to bring their business here. That's where people want to live. And it allows the retailers, obviously, to do very well, the shops and food and restaurants. So our major use here is workspace. It's about twice as much office space as there is residential space. And we have a kind of who's who list of occupiers. This is just some of them, but Google, Meta, Nike, AstraZeneca, Universal Music, Vast, Sony, they all have space on the estate. And whenever there is vacancy, which is rare, this space is let very, very quickly. We have, as I said, just under 2,000 homes. They range from government-supported social housing to very high-end, expensive housing, and everything in the middle. We have homes for sale, homes for rent, at all price points. And on the retail front, as I said, we have about 100 retail, leisure, and hospitality brands, including, I think that's now about 28 actually. And kind of that goes from everything from very small takeouts to larger restaurants, and you can get almost any type of global cuisine on this estate, including a very good Indian restaurant, which has the biggest food actually.
You said 6 weeks of waiting time for a restaurant.
Yeah. A lot of them don't take reservations, but those that do take reservations, 6 weeks or so probably to go through. Because they're very much renowned in the whole of London as great restaurants. The Indian restaurant at the bottom of the stairs, assume that doesn't take reservations, but there's about an hour and a half, 2-hour queue every night to get in there from about 6 p.m.
So these ones are also connected with the
so certain retailers do have natural gas cooking, although that's something we're trying to move away from, to move to electric. But the energy centre is that what your question is?
I was talking about the tubes.
Yes, so this is a railway station.
Oh, okay.
And a tube station.
It was already railway station, later on it was
Yes, the history was that King's Cross, King's Cross is the best connected train station in the whole of London. In 2005, when London won the 2012 Olympics, they moved the Channel Tunnel, which goes to Paris, they moved it from Waterloo to King's Cross, which made it even more the best connected. So it is an international and domestic and the rest of the country national railway station, and by far the most connected site in the whole station in the whole of London.
Biggest section.
This place was infested with crime, people say 25-30 years back was area, and now it's very much secure.
Yeah.
Drugs and everything used to be there, prevalent 30 years back.
Yeah. But that's mainly because there was no one here, so there was no one to oversee. So we run an entire security kind of concierge you won't have seen them as you were walking in, but there is concierge trained security. They don't look like security guards. They're there to welcome people. I think security guards can be quite off-putting. They can make people feel quite intimidated. But so our security guards don't dress like security guards, but ultimately their primary function is safety. But then, whilst they're there, they'll also be there to help, point people in the right direction, or do whatever they can to help. But yeah, so we have a full team, and so when there was no one here, it was easy for crime to become very prevalent.
So is the government role in it, or is it the private enterprises which got together and
So one of the two landowners was a government-owned agency,
Okay.
the railways company.
Okay.
So DHL and London Continental Railways, the government agency, they came together with us. The three parties formed a JV to do the development. Those two have now sold, so we are now in the JV with Australian Super as a pension fund. But they only came in once the income was coming from the offices. They're not interested in development so much as the income from the offices.
So what is the kind of investment that has gone into it? Kitna kharcha?
So the cost has been about £3 billion.
3 billion pounds.
Pounds is around 30,000 crore. करीब 30,000 crore.
Over about 20 years.
300 300 crore. 300 crore को आप 100 कर दो 30,000 crore.
And the current value of the estate is almost £4 billion.
What are the kind of building controls?
Lots of them and very complicated. So I mean, all building control regulations. I mean, buildings have to be very energy efficient, very safely built.
What's the size of it?
What is the kind of floor area ratio you think about?
We have, so that's the 8 million square feet. The build, we had a planning permission which allowed 8 million square feet of area. We could then choose which size buildings we put where and what the buildings look like, and we had to then get the government, the planning authority had to kind of say yes, that's okay. But
अच्छी चीज़ ये है सर, हर एक पॉपुलेशन के लिए उन्होंने बुढ़े भी हैं सर इसमें, बच्चों के खेलने के लिए भी है, यंग के लिए भी है, तो टारगेट ये किया सो फुटफॉल इज अकॉर्डिंगली कोई भी आएगा स्टोर तो चलेगा वो इसलिए क्योंकि वो हर तरह के लोगों को
67 एकड़ में सबसे ताजुब की बात की 27 एकड़ इन्होंने ड्रीम
Public places.
public places.
27 acres, which is less for public places, is basically parks or like roads, etc. Also includes
squares, you'll see
roads.
squares and not roads, like squares, parks. And so as you walk around, there's lots of different green and hard landscape.
27 acres में ऐसे 40 एकड़ भी टोटल डेवलपमेंट में क्या जिसमें 30,000 करोड़ खर्च किया और 40,000 करोड़ रुपए वैल्यू हो गई है.
But I think that's part of the success is that this probably has more areas given over to public space than most developments would.
पब्लिक प्लेस में पड़े ज़्यादा जगह देती है पर छोटी नहीं कंजूसी पड़ जाते हैं उसको. तो एक्चुअली कम्युनिटी लेवल का जो है उसमें पार्टिसिपेशन तभी होता है जब पब्लिक स्पेसेस भी हो
और फिर उसकी वैल्यू प्रॉपर्टी की वैल्यू उसी तरह
बढ़ती है.
What was the funding arrangement for it?
So the original funding arrangement.
The initial company was arrangement.
Yeah, so the original funding arrangement was that the landowners put in their land as equity with no further equity, and then we matched that equity with cash ourselves, and we bought a group of funders with us.
You were mentioning Australian pension fund.
Yeah, they came in later. So the original funders were ourselves backed by various funders that we had, and the two landowners. And then about 10 years ago, the original landowners sold, and Australian Super came into the.
So the lenders were either the bankers or the private equity firms, or how was it?
It was a combination of pension funds and then senior debt lending, basically.
हमने अभी सब जो लैंड अपन आईडीए को या बीडीए को देके या हाउसिंग बोर्ड को देके जॉइंट वेंचर बना के उसको डेवलप कर सकते हैं. सब जॉइंट वेंचर आई थिंक
And the really important part there is that there was all the parties stayed together for 10 years. They only sold once it had become successful. So I think you have to, if you're going to do that, you have to commit to a good period of time to stay together.
That's a wise decision. 10 साल तक सब बेच नहीं सकते. आप 10 साल क्योंकि फिर then you are invested.
वही करने लायक ठीक रहेगा सर. उसे जरूरत है कि 2-3 लोगों को पीजीबी में करें और फिर फाइनेंसिंग का जो अरेंजमेंट है द बिगेस्ट थिंग दे हैव डन कि सर इनके केस में इंटरनेशनल फाइनेंसिंग के लिए गए हैं और वहाँ पे कॉस्ट बहुत कैपिटल सस्ती पड़ जाती है 3% 4% बहुत है वहाँ पर।
एक इसका सर वो एसपीवी बन सकता है, एसपीवी बन जाएगा तो हम पहले से ही बना देंगे कि भाई ये हाउसिंग बोर्ड है या स्टेट गवर्नमेंट है और वो जो भी बिडर होगा फाइनली आएगा वो उसका पार्ट
प्राइवेट प्लेयर को जोड़ना चाहिए
और वो आ जाएगा ना जो जीतेगा वो
प्राइवेट प्लेयर अगर if they are foreign investors then they can take funds from abroad also. That has
एसपी बना करके उसका जो जीतेगा वो
एक्चुअली सर लैंड ही सबसे बड़ी वैल्यू है उसके अंदर। अगर अपन उसमें स्टेक होल्डर है तो लैंड चूंकि हमारी है और इंदौर शहर में या उज्जैन शहर में लैंड है तो हम ही इसके मेजर पार्टनर हैं।
ये नहीं
So what actually we are discussing is one more project of a similar kind, but the land is in a city, so we are discussing amongst ourselves.
Yeah, sure. So I guess these days, you know, in UK, Europe, to attract that kind of investment, you have to be, you have to have very high standards of delivery, health and safety, of ESG carbon story, because that's what the pension funds, they don't want to be associated with any. So actually, the ability to deliver, we've done £3 billion pound of construction on the site, no fatalities. It's really, that stuff's really important to them, as is the carbon neutral estate. So there's a very short video that talks a little bit about how we've managed to reduce the carbon footprint of the estate.
The 67-acre King's Cross estate is carbon neutral. It's an important step in our ambitious journey to become net zero as soon as possible. Our buildings have been certified as carbon neutral by Natural Capital Partners. The estate is powered by an incredibly efficient district energy network, one energy centre that produces all the heating and hot water for everyone. All the power we use comes from 100% renewable sources, both gas and electricity. Offsetting is the final piece of the puzzle, a process we only use for emissions which cannot be reduced through greater efficiency or replaced with renewables. We have offset all our historical carbon emissions, both the carbon in our buildings and the carbon generated in operating them. We're using carbon credits from independently verified global projects, such as wind farms in Inner Mongolia and replacing polluting cook stoves in Kenya. But we're not stopping there. We are investing in projects that will create new renewable energy capacity for the United Kingdom. We have agreed terms to help build a new solar farm in southern England, and we have